You know what's really painful? It's not being broke. It's not even working a job you hate. The real pain is watching someone else, maybe someone no smarter than you, no more talented than you, live the life you secretly dream of. The cars, the freedom, the ability to wake up and decide what their day looks like while you're stuck grinding, wondering why the hell you can't break through. And here's the secret they'll never tell you. It's not about how hard you work. It's not about luck. It's about the way you think. Millionaires don't think the way average people do. Their minds are wired differently. They make decisions differently. They look at risk, money, even time itself in a way that flips the game upside down. And until you rewire your brain, you'll keep playing a game you can never win. In this video, I'm going to take you step by step inside the mindset of millionaires. I'm not just going to throw cliches at you like think positive or work hard. I'll show you exactly how they see money, how they build leverage, how they use problems as fuel, and how they train their brains to find opportunity where everyone else sees dead ends. If you've ever felt trapped, like no matter how much effort you put in, you stay stuck in the same loop, then you need to hear this. Because once you start thinking like a millionaire, you'll realize you've been running with weights on your ankles this whole time. And the moment you take them off, your life accelerates. So if you're ready to shift your thinking, to finally understand what separates the wealthy from the stuck, then stick with me until the end. Because I promise you, the final key I'll share will change the way you look at money forever. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel is about real growth, real mindset shifts, and practical ways to level up your life. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Alright, let's get started. Most people think millionaires are some kind of aliens. Like they were born with some magical blueprint, a secret code that the rest of us never got. But let me break the illusion right here. The difference isn't in their DNA, it's in their perspective. And one of the biggest shifts, the one you need to internalize right now, is this: millionaires don't chase money, they chase value. That sounds like a cliche, right? But think about it. Most people wake up every day asking one silent question: how can I make more money? It's why they take extra shifts, work overtime, or even try random side hustles. But millionaires, they wake up asking, how can I create more value? And that one shift, from money to value, changes the entire game. Let me give you a story. There was a guy I met who was stuck making just enough to scrape by. He worked in retail, stocking shelves. He told me, I'm working 60 hours a week, and I still can't get ahead. I don't understand how people get rich. And I asked him, what's the value of your 60 hours? He looked at me like I'd just spoken another language. Value? I just work. And that was exactly the problem. He thought his income was tied to his effort. But here's the truth. Your income is tied to the value you bring to the marketplace, not the hours you grind. Millionaires understand this. They're obsessed with finding leverage, ways to produce more value in less time. They don't trade hours for dollars, they trade ideas, systems, and solutions for wealth. Think about Elon Musk. Does he make billions because he works 200 hours a week? No. He makes billions because his company solves problems for millions of people. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The average person hears this and thinks, okay, so I need $1 billion idea. Wrong. You don't need to invent the next Tesla or the next iPhone. You need to train your mind to constantly search for ways to increase value. In your job, in your relationships, in your side projects. The question isn't how do I make more money? The question is how do I become more valuable? Let me ask you directly. In the past week, what did you do that increased your value? Not the hours you put in, not the grind, but actual value you brought to the world. If you're struggling to answer that, that's the first clue. Millionaires keep a running inventory of their value. They know what they bring to the table, and they know how to multiply it. And here's the practical part. Start by flipping the script on your daily life. Every time you're about to do something, ask yourself, is this increasing my value, or just consuming my time? Imagine you're about to spend 3 hours scrolling through social media. Does that increase your value? No. But if you spend that same 3 hours learning how to market, building a skill, or even creating something that others might need, suddenly, you're moving in the direction of value creation. It's like this. Average people play checkers. Millionaires play chess. When you play checkers, every move is 1-to-1. You move one piece, you get one outcome. But in chess, one move sets up an entire sequence. Millionaires think like chess players. Every action they take isn't just about the immediate payoff, it's about the chain reaction it triggers. I'll give you a funny example. A friend of mine once asked me, "Should I start a YouTube channel? It's so crowded, everyone's already doing it." And I laughed, because here's the millionaire mindset at play. It's not about whether it's crowded, it's about whether you can carve value inside it. A crowded field means demand exists. The real question is, how do you position yourself in a way that solves problems differently? Millionaires don't see competition as a barrier, they see it as proof there's opportunity. And here's another story to drill this in. There was this young guy, barely out of college, working as a waiter. But instead of just carrying plates and taking tips, he started asking himself, how can I add more value than what's expected of me? He began remembering customers' favorite meals, recommending dishes they might enjoy, and even suggesting wine pairings. Within 6 months, he became the highest tipped waiter in the restaurant. But it didn't stop there. His boss noticed, promoted him to manager, and eventually partnered with him on a new restaurant. Why? Because value multiplies. When you become a person obsessed with delivering more value, doors open that you can't even predict. So let me be blunt. If you're sitting there thinking, why can't I get ahead? Why am I stuck? It's because you're still playing the wrong game. You're measuring effort instead of value. Millionaires measure value. Now, let's take it deeper. Value is not just about skills. It's also about mindset. Millionaires train their brains to look at problems differently. Where most people see headaches, they see opportunities. Think about it. Every problem in your life right now, every inconvenience, every frustration, is also a business idea waiting to be solved. The traffic that annoys you, someone created Uber out of that. The frustration of waiting in long lines, someone invented mobile ordering. Even the boredom of scrolling endlessly, that turned into TikTok. So the practical takeaway here is, start looking at your problems with new eyes. Instead of complaining, ask yourself, how could this be solved? And who would pay for that solution? You don't need to solve global warming to become wealthy. You just need to solve something small, something local, something specific. Millionaires know that wealth is a byproduct of solving problems at scale. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds great, but I'm just one person. How do I scale value? And that's the golden question. Millionaires leverage 3 things: people, systems, and capital. They don't try to do it all themselves. They build teams, they build systems, and they use money to multiply money. Here's a quick exercise. Write down your top 3 skills. Now, for each skill, brainstorm one way you could deliver more value with less effort. Let's say you're good at graphic design. Instead of just freelancing, could you create templates and sell them online? That's scaling value. If you're good at teaching, could you film lessons once and sell them forever instead of teaching lit every time? That's scaling value. Millionaires think in systems, not one-off tasks. Let me drop a line you should tattoo on your brain. Effort adds up. Systems multiply. That's the first mindset shift you need if you want to think like a millionaire. Now, I want to hit you with a hard truth. If you're not intentional, you'll spend your entire life trading time for money. And time is the one resource you can never get back. Millionaires guard their time like treasure. They see every wasted hour as potential wealth burned. That's why they invest in systems, hire people, and automate tasks. Because they understand this equation. Every hour saved is wealth earned. And let's be real. You might be listening to this and thinking, but I don't have money to hire people. I don't have resources to build systems. Fine. Start small. Automate one thing. Learn one skill that allows you to do more with less. Even something as simple as creating a budget, tracking your spending automatically, or setting reminders that save you from mistakes. That's leverage. That's how millionaires train their brains. So let me wrap this first section with a question. Are you going to keep measuring your life by how many hours you grind? Or are you going to flip the switch and start measuring by how much value you create? Because the moment you shift that focus, you'll start walking the same mental path millionaires walk. And listen, if you're finding this valuable already, hit that like button. Seriously, it helps this message reach more people, and it tells me you're ready to think bigger. Subscribe if you haven't, because the next piece I'm about to reveal, the next mindset shift, will blow this one out of the water. If the first mental shift of millionaires is about value, the second is about perspective on risk. And let me warn you, This one is going to sting, because the way you've been trained to think about risk is the exact opposite of how wealthy people see it. Most people are paralyzed by fear. Fear of losing money, fear of failing, fear of looking stupid. That fear keeps them small. It makes them stick to safe jobs, safe investments, safe decisions, and in the end, they stay trapped in a safe, mediocre life. But millionaires, they don't see risk as danger. They see it as opportunity dressed in uncertainty. Let me paint a picture. Imagine two people standing at the edge of a cliff with a rope bridge in front of them. One person looks at the bridge and says, "It's too shaky, too dangerous. I could fall." They turn around, go home, and stay where it's comfortable. The other person looks at the same bridge and thinks, "Yeah, it looks scary, but on the other side is a treasure chest." Guess which one becomes wealthy? The treasure wasn't hidden. It was there for anyone to claim, but only the person willing to embrace uncertainty walked across. And here's the truth. Millionaires aren't reckless. They don't just run into risks blindly. They calculate, they research, they ask themselves, what's the worst that could happen? And if that happens, can I recover? If the answer is yes, they take the risk. If the answer is no, they find another way. This is what separates a calculated risk taker from a gambler. Let me give you a story. There was a man who worked a stable corporate job, making a comfortable salary. He had an idea for a small software tool, something niche that could help real estate agents. But he was terrified to quit his job. He thought, what if it fails? What if I lose everything? A millionaire mindset would have flipped that question. Instead of asking, what if I lose everything? The better question is, what if this works? What if this succeeds beyond my wildest imagination? So he finally took the leap, but smartly. He built the software on the side until it was making more money than his job. Then he quit. Today, that software earns him millions annually. Now, contrast that with the average mindset. Most people avoid even small risks. They say, I'll start that side hustle when I have more time. Or, I'll invest when I feel more secure. But that day never comes because security is an illusion. Even your so-called secure job isn't secure. One decision from your boss and it's gone. The irony is that by avoiding risk, people take the biggest risk of all, the risk of staying stuck forever. So let me hit you with this line. Millionaires don't fear risk. They fear regret. They know they can recover from a failure, but they'll never recover from a life half-lived. Let me make this practical. I want you to start practicing what I call the two-question test. Next time you face a decision, ask 1. What's the worst realistic outcome? 2. Can I bounce back from it? If you can bounce back, then the risk is worth taking. That's how millionaires filter decisions. They don't wait for perfect certainty, because perfect certainty doesn't exist. They act when the odds are in their favor, even if fear is in the room. Now, here's where most people trip up. They think risk is about money, but often, the riskiest decisions don't even involve cash. They involve reputation, energy, or pride. Millionaires risk embarrassment all the time. They're willing to look stupid in the short term if it means growth in the long term. That's why they launch businesses that sometimes flop, pitch ideas that sometimes get rejected, and experiment with strategies that sometimes fail. But every failure adds a layer of experience. Every rejection teaches them something. While the average person is busy protecting their ego, millionaires are busy learning. I'll tell you something personal. I once watched a guy bomb on stage during a pitch. It was brutal. He forgot half his lines, the investors looked bored, and at the end, he didn't raise a single dollar. Most people would have crawled into a hole and never pitched again. But him, he asked for feedback, studied his mistakes, and 2 months later, he pitched again. Better, sharper, more confident. That time, he landed $500,000 in funding. And later, he sold the company for 8 figures. That's the millionaire mindset at work. They see failure not as a wall, but as a stepping stone. So let me turn this back to you. What's the thing you've been putting off because you're scared? The business idea, the new project, the investment? Imagine yourself 10 years from now, looking back. Will you regret trying and failing, or will you regret never even starting? That's the real risk. Now let's go deeper. Millionaires also understand that risk and reward are not separate, they're twins. You can't have one without the other. The higher the risk, the higher the potential reward. But here's the secret. Millionaires don't just take high risks randomly. They increase their odds. They stack the deck in their favor. How? Through knowledge. They study. They prepare. They surround themselves with mentors. They don't just dive into the stock market blind. They learn. They don't just throw money, random businesses. They research. They tilt the odds so far in their favor that when they take a risk, it's almost unfair. That's why you see wealthy people investing millions into things others are scared of. They know something others don't. Let me give you an example. Warren Buffett once said, "Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing." That's pure gold. If you study, if you prepare, if you understand the game you're playing, risk becomes opportunity. It's ignorance that makes risk dangerous. Knowledge makes risk manageable. Here's a practical step you can take today. Instead of asking, "Should I take this risk?" ask, "What knowledge do I need to take this risk intelligently?" That small shift changes everything. Because the more you know, the less scary it becomes. Another story. I met a young woman who wanted to invest in real estate but was terrified of losing money. She studied the market for 6 months straight, went to every seminar, read every book. By the time she bought her first property, she knew more than most agents. That risk turned into a cash-flowing asset that paid her every month. Today, she owns 10 properties. Was it risky? On the surface, yes. But with preparation, it was calculated. And here's the kicker. The biggest risk you face is not financial, it's mental. It's the risk of staying the same. Millionaires know this. They know that if you're not growing, you're dying. That's why they constantly put themselves in uncomfortable positions, because growth never comes from comfort. So I'll leave you with this. Start training yourself to lean into discomfort. Every time you feel fear about a decision, don't run from it. Ask yourself, what's really at stake here? And what might I gain if I push through? If the answer excites you more than it scares you, take the leap. And hey, if this resonates, smash that like button. Not because it helps the algorithm, but because it tells me you're serious about rewiring your brain. Subscribe if you haven't, because the next shift we're going into, the way millionaires view time, is the most powerful one yet. And trust me, it'll shake the way you look at your life. If money is important and risk is necessary, then time is everything. Millionaires know this better than anyone, and yet it's the one thing average people ignore. The reason most people stay broke isn't because they're lazy or even because they lack opportunity. It's because they waste the one currency they can never get back: their time. Think about it. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose a job and get another one. But every single minute you waste is gone forever. And here's the paradox. People act like money is priceless and time is cheap. They'll fight for a $10 discount, but waste 3 hours on Netflix without blinking. Millionaires flip that equation. They protect their time like gold because they know time is the seed of wealth. Here's a story. I knew a guy who ran a small business. He did everything himself: bookkeeping, customer service, deliveries, even cleaning the office. He worked 12 hours a day and thought he was being productive, but he was stuck. Then a mentor told him something that changed his life. Your job is not to do everything. Your job is to buy back your time. So he started outsourcing small tasks. First emails, then accounting, then operations. Suddenly, he had hours free to focus on growth. Within 2 years, his business tripled. Not because he worked harder, but because he valued his time. Now let me ask you, how much of your week is spent on low-value activities? Scrolling, gossiping, procrastinating, being around people who drain your energy. Be honest. If you wrote down where your hours go, you'd be shocked. Millionaires run time audits like others run financial audits. They know where every hour is going, and if it doesn't build skills, wealth, or relationships, they cut it. But it's not just about cutting waste. The real magic is in multiplying time. Millionaires create systems and assets that keep working even when they're not. Imagine writing a book once and it pays royalties for decades. Recording a course once and it teaches people while you sleep. Making an investment that throws off cash flow every month. That's not trading time for money. That's converting time into freedom. Here's the practical side. Start asking yourself this: is this task building me a system, or is it trapping me in a cycle? If you're doing the same thing over and over with no compounding effect, you're stuck in a hamster wheel. But if you're building something that grows without you, you're thinking like a millionaire. And here's another truth. Millionaires don't just save time, they buy it. Every time they hire someone, use technology, or pay for services that save hours, they're buying back life. I knew someone who hated cleaning. Every weekend it cost him for hours. He finally hired a cleaner for $50. That gave him 4 hours back, which he used to work on a side hustle that ended up making him thousands. That's the raw valuing your time. But none of this works if your energy is trash. Millionaires know time without energy is useless. That's why they invest in sleep, fitness, and health. They see their body as the machine that powers their wealth. They'd rather protect their energy than brag about working exhausted, because one focused hour beats 10 unfocused ones. So let me leave you with this. Millionaires don't waste time. They multiply it, they guard it, they buy it back, and they invest it in things that compound. If you want to think like a millionaire, start treating your hours as more valuable than your dollars, because dollars can come and go, but your hours decide whether you ever get freedom. Now let's pull it all together. You've learned the 3 mental shifts: focus on value, embrace calculated risk, and protect your time. If you start applying even one of these, your life begins to shift. But if you apply all 3 together, you start walking the exact mental path millionaires walk. And let's be honest, you felt the truth of this. Deep down, you already know you've been wasting time, avoiding risks, and chasing money instead of value. But today is your chance to flip the script. Don't just consume this video and move on. Take action. Ask yourself, what's one way I can create value today? What's one risk I've been avoiding that I need to face? And what's 1 hour I can reclaim from distractions and invest in my future? Because the millionaire mindset isn't built overnight. It's built decision by decision, hour by hour, until one day you look back and realize you're not the same person anymore. So here's my challenge. For the next 7 days, treat your time like gold. Guard it, invest it, and multiply it. Watch what happens. You'll start to feel momentum, and momentum is the beginning of wealth. If this video hit you, do me a favor, hit that like button so more people can hear this message. Subscribe if you haven't, because this channel is about real growth, real mindset shifts, and practical steps to level up your life. And drop a comment telling me what action you're going to take today to start thinking like a millionaire. Because remember, money follows mindset. Change the way you think, and your entire life will change.